morning, ladies and gentlemen. As the editor-in-chief of Franchise India, it gives me great delight in welcoming you all here to the Business Magnum Opus in its second edition now, the Entrepreneur India 2012. This conference is an initiative which has been taken by Franchise India, and since 1999, Franchise India has been working towards helping industries and businesses to organize and grow, empower social change, and largely increase consumption in a much more organized state of affairs. Believing in our vision, I would firstly like to thank the Ministry of MSME, and I would also like to thank NSIC for supporting this show, particularly Dr. H.P. Kumar, who brought our vision that there is an important need to build an entrepreneurial community today, and particularly at this show, where we feel you will all be inspired, and you'll inspire each other as well, to build corporates which will truly be the corporates of the 21st century, I feel. So I guess what has changed for entrepreneurship today? I feel 20th century entrepreneurship was really more about a few individuals who were able to raise some sophisticated capital in a very, very advanced market landscape, and they were then able to build large organizations based on economies of scale. But 21st century, things have completely got rewritten. As an editor of various entrepreneurial-led journalism projects that I do at Franchise India, I almost come across not less than 10 to 12 editorial profiles of entrepreneurs almost on everyday basis. This used to be about 2 to 3 a week back in 2005 or 2006. And when I read most of these profiles, I find that the businesses they are creating, they are actually being created with very little capital, some in fact with no capital at all. And yet they are adding a lot of value both to the economy as well as to the consumption cycle. If I look at the situation from a larger ecosystem perspective, what I find is that the barriers that were there for entering into a certain industry, they've really come crashing down. And the consumption chain has really got elongated in that sense, because there were a lot of challenges which were there in each industry which are now getting addressed in a more organized state of affairs by entrepreneurs. And the opportunity that has emerged today is more in emerging countries like India than perhaps what I can think is in Silicon Valley. So overall, I feel there is a very optimistic climate, particularly from a startup entrepreneurship perspective. Now, looking at more mid-level enterprises, which are today being helmed by visionary leaders and business owners, they're on the way to become corporates. And a new era has been born for them, wherein not a new myriad of opportunities which are coming, and they see it all across them, happening all around. But at the same time, they also realize the most important thing, that there is a threat that if they don't capture this opportunity in a certain frame of time with most efficiency, there is a good reason that these corporates would actually go into oblivion, or they'll completely become irrelevant to the consumer. So I guess today it is very important for mid-level enterprises who are looking to become large organizations. They need to have a change plan which is probably as efficient as the business plan today. When I say a change plan, whether from an entrepreneur's perspective, you drive it from fear or you drive it from inspiration, and of course, I guess giving the benefit of value to your years of experience as an entrepreneur, you might as well draw it from inspiration. It will be the single most important game changer for a mid-level enterprise to grow. And yet when you become a corporate, at the same time, it is still important to retain your entrepreneurial values back again. I was reading this interview about 6 months back of Larry Page, who is the founder of Google, co-founder. He's come back to the seat again of CEO of Google. His claim to CEO is that he wants to save Google from a midlife crisis. That is the kind of vision that is required today to think as an entrepreneur. Interestingly, another situation that I see 15, 20 years back, a lot of international organizations, they used to shun partnerships with Indian organizations for the reason that the person at the top was perhaps too heavy and the organization was probably taking a back seat. But I see now that is becoming the only reason why international companies want to partner with Indian companies, because they feel that there is this one entrepreneur, visionary business leader at the top who has a vested interest in making sure that the product or the project is going on to success. So I feel there is certainly the mid-level enterprises, they've got the fundamentals all right, but what is probably required today is to build a culture or a framework in the organization for a lot more connectedness, wherein changes can happen far more quickly than they're happening right now. And I think this would require finally the empowerment of the employee who would need to become a more or a bigger risk taker rather than just a follower of instructions. So I guess that said, I see another big role for entrepreneurs today, particularly for established entrepreneurs, which is to think like an investor. Today there are a lot of people out there or inventors out there who have some idea or some innovation in mind, but they do not have the understanding of how this innovation can actually be turned into a business. On the other hand, there is this established business leader who has the understanding of how to turn this idea into a business. At the same time, he also has the foresight to see where in the coming years this idea will actually lead to. So I guess there is a role for an established entrepreneur to think more of an evangelist or a mentor to certain businesses, to certain small businesses, I would say. And at the same time, as opposed to probably being a more startup, hands-on entrepreneur. So I see that as a big role for entrepreneurs who have taken certain size to actually support smaller or startup entrepreneurship. So the idea is, of course, to become a conglomerate, but at the same time, retain the values of a startup. So I guess there's a lot of learning which will probably going to be happening over the course of the next 2 days. We're going to throw a lot of ideas to you. Our experts are going to make sure that you take home some excellent understanding on entrepreneurship and business enterprise growth. But I think the fact that all of you are here is to say that you're all like-minded people, so feel free to network with each other, exchange your cards liberally, and I'm sure the growth will happen. So ladies and gentlemen, that said, I welcome you once again, and I wish you 2 great days of networking, learning, and taking a lot of knowledge from this forum. Welcome.